I'm Theo Behe. I'm the writer of Johnny Recruit, and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Theo Behe about writing Johnny Recruit. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Theo is a 14-year-old Canadian student currently studying in London, England. The concept for Johnny Recruit was originally a school project submitted years ago in primary school, the inspiration coming from his great-uncle's heroics in World War II. In addition to his studies, Theo loves reading, writing, his history and biology classes, and playing football. With the assistance of Canadian illustrator Thomas Moselle, Johnny Recruit from comics publisher Marcosia is Theo's first graphic novel. Set in wartime Canada, England, and Germany in 1941 to 1942, Johnny Recruit is a story about hope and heroics and youthful ambition. When 14-year-old Big Johnny learns his uncle's been captured by Nazis, he's sure the only person who can rescue his mentor is himself. Stellar bush pilot and expert game hunter, Johnny lies about his age and joins World War II to find his best friend. But when a rival British pilot threatens to expose his secret, Johnny faces tough decisions no young kid should have to make. Johnny Recruit is described as a coming-of-age story from innocence to experience. This isn't a tale lamenting lives lost, the peripheral impact of battle, or the tragedy of blindly following duty for one's country, but rather a story of love for family. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Theo Behe about writing Johnny Recruit. So, Theo Behe, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Yes, thanks. Nice to meet you. It's all good.
Appreciate your time. What I usually do to start off the interview is ask the creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering, what was the first comic book that you read?
Well, it has to be Spider-Man. I've watched all the Marvel movies. I've read a couple comic books, but more full, long 500-page books are more my thing rather than comic ones.
Ah, so you're more into novels then?
Yeah, I'm more into novels. I've read a couple of Jack Reacher books, Young Jason Bourne, Alex Rider. Those books are my thing.
Have you seen the Amazon series yet, the Reacher series?
Yeah, me and my dad were watching a little bit of that.
Ah, very good, very good. Well, that leads me to my next question about who or what inspires you to create today?
Well, my uncle Bert, he inspires me to be heroic in today's society or whatever. But my parents definitely push me, and of course my teachers and stuff at school. They lead me on to see what I become in the future.
Cool. Any artistic inspirations? You were talking about the Reacher series. Any other novelists that inspire you?
Well, Band of Brothers and the Jason Bourne writer. I forgot what his name was, but they inspired me with this book. And I think his name was Robert Ludlum, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good. So we're here talking about your newest project called Johnny Recruit. And I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about the story and perhaps what inspired you to create it.
Well, when Big Johnny finds out his uncle's been captured by Nazis, he has to sneak into the war and find him and rescue him. But when a rival British pilot threatens to expose a secret about him being 14, he has to make some decisions no young kid should have to make.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Yes, pretty intense synopsis. But Bert, my great-great-uncle, he definitely inspired me to write this book. His heroics are crazy. 13 and a half Germans shot down, and he's got the flying crosses. And when I went to Dieppe a couple years back to the Canadian Memorial, and we walked around, saw the tanks, saw the peaches, and that definitely inspired me for little pages in the books, and of course that Dieppe page.
Yeah, that's something that not a lot of people get to see, and the people that do go are certainly inspired by, certainly the history of the event, and certainly the people who are there laid to rest. So it's really, really inspirational in that regard, for sure, for sure. You're the writer on the project, but you worked with an artist named Tom Muzel. And I wonder if you
Yeah.
could talk a bit about the collaboration process and how'd that go working back and forth?
So for the ideas, me and my dad started off a little bit bouncing ideas off each other on the way to soccer. And then we started off doing a storyboard with writing out what we wanted in the pages. And then my dad found Tom on Fiverr, and we connected because we wanted a Canadian artist in Ontario, of course. And once we got that, I would draw little sketches that he could use as demos, let's say, and we'd also have calls a little bit, and then we could talk about the ideas.
Was this your first time working on a book of this nature, or had you some previous experience, perhaps from school?
Nah, this was my first time, so it's been the creative stuff, and yeah, it's just been a great experience.
Well, what have you learned along the way working with Tom as the artist?
Well, I've improved my creative skills, and I've got the structuring of the story. That's been great. And of course, I've been planning with patients and stuff like that. And I've also got the promotional campaigns that have helped my dad. It's one of the newest things I've learned over the way. And I see how much has gone into that to promote the book, get it out onto podcasts like this.
Yeah, that's not a lot of things that that creators, sort of understand the process. It's not just like, hey, I've got a great story, I'm going to get it out the world, but you have to get out there and pound the pavement, so to speak, and get the word out. So it is a process for sure.
Yeah, it's really important.
Now, you mentioned a wee bit about some of the inspiration, but what research did you do in preparation for the book?
Well, I searched up a ton of images for each page. I could see like 1940 truck in page 1, and I could get the German tanks, get the correct planes, and get the correct background. I also did some stuff about child soldiers because, of course, Johnny is 14. You have to be 18 at the time. And so I did some research on that. And it was it was a great experience learning about that stuff.
Was that a surprise for you? Because typically, like, that to me blew my mind, like being a teenager in the war. Was it something that you had known about, or did that surprise you?
Well, I could imagine myself being in that situation, let's say, doing those heroics. And there's this really cool story about this guy called Tom Dobney. And I think he was 15. He got into the war due to a dare that his friends dared him to join the war. And the only reason how his dad spotted him was because he was shaking hands with the king in a newspaper. Not great parenting. So.
Wow, shaking hands with the king, that would give you away for sure.
Yeah.
There you go. So is this story something you'd like to continue, perhaps as another chapter down the road?
We could do a second one. Of course, it ends in a cliffhanger, him in Switzerland. They always have to. And for my GCSEs, which is a thing I do that people do in the UK, I might be taking drama, so I could write a screenplay about it. Lots of ideas.
For sure. Now, you mentioned you were into Band of Brothers. I think there's a sequel in the works, something about In the Air. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I think, where are they shooting? I think they're shooting it just up the road. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Of course, I'll watch that with my dad.
Maybe you'll sneak in and be an extra.
Yeah, definitely. Guys on the scene.
That'd be cool. Now, I know you mentioned that you're busy with school, and that definitely is a priority right now, but do you have any other coming projects that you can talk about? Any other comic book related or graphic novel related projects?
Well, I'll be working on this for like later copies or whatever. And of course, I'll be promoting this a ton, podcasts, newspapers. And so this is probably my main focus.
Now, I know that we're starting to see restrictions ease a wee bit, so some of the comic book conventions and festivals are starting up again. Do you think there might be a possibility where you promote the book at one of these upcoming festivals?
So in Dieppe, there's the Dieppe Memorial later coming up this year. And so we were thinking maybe we'd go there and show the book at the memorial place, maybe sell a few copies. And there's a local bookshop up the road that we might sell some books from. And there's many more opening up. Yeah, book signings, stuff like that.
Great. Sounds exciting. So where do you recommend that people go to find out more about your current and future projects?
So I have a Facebook account on Johnny Recruit that my dad runs. And so I think that's probably the best place to go.
Thanks to Theo for the chat. You can discover more about Johnny Recruit on Facebook at facebook.com/JohnnyRecruit. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2022.